Welcome everybody to another episode of Come Sit With Us here at EBS. My name is Steve and I'm very happy to have you here with us today. So let me tell you about last night. And last night was our, as I said, introduction to meditation, mindfulness and such. And we had a group here, and I think there were maybe 8 or 9 people, whatever it all was. And as always, some people have meditated for years. Other people haven't meditated at all, but they're interested in it. And we just sat together and talked a little bit, but then we did a meditation, very simple meditation of just the, follow your breath. Just be mindful of your breathing process and allow your mind to settle down. And we did that for about 10 minutes. And we kind of jokingly said, this 10 minutes will either seem like 2 minutes or 20 minutes. It just depends. Not a good or bad, but everyone's different. That's just how it goes. And so after we did our 10 minutes, we all shared, well, what was that like and such. And of course, you go around the room and you have some folks that, my nose started itching or, my back started hurting or whatever. And another person was, saying that I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do. Their minds were just kind of racing around. And another person was, kind of thinking about what a hard day I had today and kind of mulling about that and on and so forth. And normal response that you normally get, with a group of people who are just learning meditation, kind of thing. All of it perfectly fine. And as we were wrapping up, we went around and said, sum up what this was like in just a couple of words. And went around the room. And most everyone said peaceful and relaxed. And that's kind of like, yeah, that's kind of what I would favor too. One person, though, said, I feel connected. And that just caught my attention so much that I wanted to kind of talk about that today a little bit. In that we spend so much of our monkey mind time being kind of alone and going through our daily world, thinking about ourselves and being preoccupied with how others see us and do my friends really like me? And am I worthy of any kind of love or whatever it all might be? And that monkey mind, and we called it, last night we were talking about it, but we call it those tapes. We keep rolling and rolling and rolling. And we all have tapes that are these automatic messages that we have repeated to ourselves thousands of times every day. And they play in the background 90% of the time. Then they come to the foreground and we become overly preoccupied with those old messages. And we talked about some of those tapes are ones that have been given to us, meaning by our families, how we were raised, our circumstances, the environments that we were in. And then some of those tapes we've made for ourselves, meaning how we handled being raised in the environments that we were in, and the messages that we got out of that and how we understood that. And you know what I'm talking about. That collectively is what we would call the monkey mind. And those are automatic messages. And so most of the time, for most of us, we go through the day on autopilot, replaying those messages. Every situation we walk into, those messages start to roll through and click in. Something as simple as walking into a store and the cashier looks at you and immediately a tape will activate. What are they staring at? Or, just whatever craziness, that kind of goes in the back of our heads a lot of the times. And we live in this kind of world of, sometimes it can be pretty lonely. Kind of scary sometimes, or whatever it might be for each of us, but it's like I call it a limbic roadmap, meaning the emotional landscape that you paint every time that you walk into a room, every time you meet someone, every time you talk to somebody, there's an emotional landscape that you are painting in that interaction, okay? Based off of old tapes that are running and 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 running. So what does meditation do? Well, hopefully, it develops a little bit of space so that we can begin to become aware of those tapes when they do kick in. And we can start to see them. Not be hijacked by them, though that always still occurs, right? None of us are perfect. But we start to see the tapes as they roll through. And instead of just strictly feeling insecure in a certain situation, I see myself being insecure. And that's a big difference. It sounds like a small thing. It's not. I see myself being insecure, and that observer, that meditative mind, allows the observer to witness what's unfolding in front of it right then and there in the present moment. Gets to see it. And it's interesting is that from my very limited experience, is that when that observer is kicking in and watching that reaction occur and providing you a little bit of space so that you're not completely hijacked into that emotional state of insecurity, in this example, then that I become less married to the thought of my insecurity. I begin to see it as something that I carry with me. It is not who I am, but it is something I carry with me and that I identify with. And maybe the more I meditate and the more I allow that meditative mind to develop a little bit, then maybe I begin to exercise that mindfulness of the observer in that moment. And instead of totally giving in, or as I say, being hijacked by that emotional state, I now begin to see that state for maybe what it is. And I become not only mindful of that moment, I become maybe more aware of why I have chosen to carry that in my emotional backpack. You know, why I tend to, in certain situations or with certain people, I have certain feelings and certain responses that are there. And I become more aware of myself as I do these things. I think it's interesting because the monkey mind, and our old tapes, but in the Buddhist way of speaking, our monkey mind tends to have a very narrow point of focus. It only sees down that one little lane that it chooses to see, right? The meditative mind, on the other hand, is doing this. And that focus is becoming wider, a little bit more expansive, right? And so I see myself going through these life experiences, and I understand my relationship with those life experiences, and why maybe I've chosen to see things in certain ways, and maybe I begin to understand the lessons that I'm trying to learn from that. And then maybe I see these triggering events as not being adversarial, but being things that actually are helpful for me to grow. And then maybe the next time I run into a situation that really is stressful, and everything in me just is starting to shoot off, maybe then there's a slight pause in my personal drama that allows me to step back to look with fresh eyes, that beginner's mind that we all hear about in the Zen practice, right? That beginner's mind, and I see this situation a little bit differently. I see myself a little bit differently, And now my options are much broader on how I can interact with that situation. I'm not scripted to automatically respond and go down this little narrow path every time it occurs. That's the only thing I know to do is do that. Instead, maybe my mind is starting to do this. And maybe when that happens, it changes my relationship with the people in my life. Maybe I see those folks in a new light. Maybe I see myself in a new light in how I interact with them and how I understand them and such. And so we look at the monkey mind is always there. It has a job to do, right? Its job is to keep us safe and all that, but it tends to distort things and see things in weird ways, and it just doesn't always feel healthy all the time. But that's the monkey mind. It just runs freely. The meditative mind steps back a second, looks from a broader perspective, and sees things in a different light. And so that, in a nutshell, when that lady last night said, when I asked, what did you get out of this practice tonight? And she said, I feel more connected. That to me was like she is truly touching that meditative mind that is within her. And when we touch that, we feel more connected to folks around us. We feel safe with folks around us. We feel supportive. We feel secure in those around us, because that's the fundamental meditation experience, is feeling connected to a bigger picture. And I think that when we feel connected to a bigger picture, then we feel that with the people we're with, whether they're strangers, whether they're friends, whether they're family. It's just that sense of being connected to somebody is there. And that monkey mind a lot of times wants to see the folks around us as competition or adversaries or dead weight around our necks, or so whatever it might be, whatever the script is for you and that person. That's how we tend to play it out. But that meditative mind seems to see a bigger picture and when it does, it feels truly, truly connected to those around them. And so is it worth practicing meditation, right? Boy, if it just does that in my life, then yes, 110%. Life feels more connected, more fulfilled, has more of a sense of some sort of purpose, and on and so forth. But I have to make the effort every once in a while to sit down and allow that openness to have an avenue of expression through me. Okay? I choose my words carefully when I say it like that. I have to invite it into my life and embrace it and allow it to expand in a sense. And I think that in that meditative mindset, that's something that we all can participate in. So today's meditation is going to be a meditation of the heart, because where is that place where we feel connected with others? Heart, right? And it's just going to be a simple 10-minute visualization. And all we're going to do is settle into our meditation practice. And then we're going to visualize breathing out from our heart. And every time we take a breath out, it comes through our heart and goes out. And it goes out like this, just kind of expands out. And imagine that in the room you're in. And as with each breath you take, it becomes brighter and broader in a sense, and fills up that room, and it comes through the heart. Let's give it a try and see what happens, okay? So if you're sitting on a chair or a cushion, we sit in some fairly decent posture, and our backs are straight. I feel relaxed. I start to slow my breathing down a little bit. And as I do, I feel my body begin to relax. And as my body relaxes, it feels like it's beginning to open up a little bit. And then for me, I close my eyes. I become aware of my breath. My body relaxes even more, opens up even more. And I'm going to spend the next several minutes of just practicing that visualization of breathing through my heart into the room I'm in, into the space I'm in. And I can feel my breath opening up this door wider and wider and wider. Allow your breathing to go slower, deeper, and wider. And follow your out breath all the way out through your heart. Let yourself breathe. Allow yourself to relax. What does it feel like to breathe through the heart? allow yourself to be open to the experience. Feel the room that you're in. Feel the space that you occupy. And breathe through the heart. All right. Begin to open your eyes and take a minute just to feel what that feels like. See if you can feel a difference in the room that you're in. Maybe a difference in yourself. So the thought with this particular meditation is, you could say, the center of compassion lies within the heart. And as that center begins to open and express itself, then you become a participant in that expression, right? And you begin to maybe see the world around you a little bit differently than what you did before. Now, we know that if we have a meditation practice that we stick to, that yes, we will see progress and so on and so forth. And that's good, very good. I wish I was more disciplined in mine, But with this kind of exercise, it's also a really, really good exercise to remind ourselves that the next time we're in a situation where all of our buttons are being pushed, let's try breathing through the heart a little bit. In that moment, in that emotional moment, when we're not sitting quietly on our meditation cushion or whatever, and we feel the most anxiety, at that moment is the best time to remind ourselves, breathe through it. Just breathe through it. And open yourself up to that moment that you're in a little bit, right? Because every time our buttons get pushed, if you're like me, there's going to be a period of time where you get emotionally hijacked and you just go down la-la lane for a while, feeling all stressed to the nines. And 1,000 tapes play so loudly. They drown out all the other sounds. All you can hear are those tapes screaming. And that'll last for so long. And then if we can remind ourselves on the front end of that, breathe through it, then maybe, just maybe, those tapes don't scream as loud. The volume turns down a little bit. And instead of being in my emotional moment, maybe now I'm starting to experience that mindful moment opening up. And when that mindful moment opens up, that allows me the opportunity to see things in that different kind of light. And I can then interact with them in a different way than maybe how I used to, if you will. So, long story short, is this is a good tool to have in your tool belt. It's not the only tool, but it's a good one to have. And it is, if you are in a stressful situation, a relationship, work situation, family situation, health situation, and you know that you can predict the next time you're going to walk into one of these landmines, right, emotional landmines, then see yourself breathing through it. And just visualize that in your mind's eye. Next time you're at work and the boss comes in and you go, right, see yourself breathing through it for a second, so that when the actual event occurs and you remind yourself, just breathe for a second, just breathe. Then maybe, hopefully, that meditation practice has laid the groundwork for another experience to occur other than that emotional volcanic event that we are all too familiar with sometimes. So, long story short, all these thoughts came from last night from a lady who just said, I feel more connected now. And what she said echoed, and that echo I'm sharing with you guys today. So I hope this is of some kind of help, and if it is, then practice it. If it feels right to you, follow it, and see where it takes you. You are your best teacher when we learn how to listen. So thank you guys very much, and we will see you next time around. Take care. Bye.